Today I'm going to show you how to shoot a cinematic product video at home with a smartphone. No studio, no big light, no professional camera. I'm doing it all in a normal living room. I did buy some extras, a Lazy Susan turntable for about £10, some black shiny perspex for about £35, and a bedsheet for about £5. I did use a motorised slider, this one that Zeppen sent to me. I'm going to show you 8 great shots that you can use in your product videos. Then I'm going to edit them all together to create a powerful, professional looking product video. The 3 Ps. The push-in is a must-have shot. They show up in just about every professional product video. It's not surprising, it gives the viewer a closer look at the product. I used a Zeppen slider, which allows me to get a very smooth, gliding shot. Now, there's tons of sliders on the market at various prices. There's also sliders that simply put your smartphone on wheels. But if you don't have a slider, don't worry, you can actually try and do this shot by hand. Set your smartphone to shoot 4K at 60 frames per second. The 4K resolution allows you to use stabilization software later and still get great quality. The 60 frames per second allows you to slow the shot to 40%, which is 24 frames per second, which also makes the shot smoother. If you do this by hand, try to use a falling movement, and this means you allow yourself to fall forward, and this creates a smoother motion. Just try not to actually fall over. Another essential shot is the pullback. This shot is basically the reverse of the push-in, but it does have a slightly different function. The pullback can be used more like a reveal shot, especially if you start with a close-up. A reveal shot can be very dramatic. It really helps to leave a positive impression of the product on the viewer. Again, I just used the slider for my shot. But if you do this shot by hand, you might find it's easier to shoot a push-in falling forwards and then reverse it in the edit. The sideways dolly is simply moving left to right. But you can do this without the camera pivoting, so the camera just stays at a fixed angle. The fixed angle can be really great for extreme close-up shots of the product. So it looks a bit like the spaceship in the opening shot of Star Wars. So if you want to make this shot even more professional, you can add a kind of pivot to the camera. So as it's moving left to right or right to left, it goes in an arc movement like this around the product. One way to do this is with some kind of fluid ball head, but you can also mount a smartphone gimbal onto the slider. And now just use the object tracking feature of the gimbal. Start the slider moving and the gimbal will pivot the camera automatically. Also, think about your angle. In some sideways shots, I use an angle up, which makes the product look bigger, more impressive, dominating the frame. So this angle sends a kind of unconscious message to the viewer that this is a superior product. Don't you just want to buy this mic now? Links in the description. This is one of my favorite ways to create exciting product shots, and it's really very easy. I have the smartphone fixed on a tripod, then lock the exposure and focus on the product. Now pull down the exposure until it goes black. Make sure the room is dark first as well. This little light is perfect for holding in your hand. Start recording and move the light to catch parts of the product. For this video, I wanted to create little teasing glimpses of the product, which I mostly used at the start to build expectation that something really cool is about to be revealed. I really enjoy creating these shots because moving the light around is a bit like painting. It's more organic, and it adds an organic element to the video as well. If every shot is just a smooth slider shot, your video can look a bit robotic. To create a flyover shot, the camera is angled down from above and then flies over the product. Again, I used the slider for this shot, and luckily this little Andua tripod was able to carry the weight of the slider, which I wasn't actually expecting. If the product is standing up, it adds a nice feeling of perspective as the camera moves over the top. It's a bit like a drone looking down at skyscrapers or something. For the flyover shot, I decided to lay the Comica box down and use the moving light effect again. So this creates quite a cool shot of the Comica name embossed on the box. It never hurts to go a bit sci-fi when you're shooting tech products. So you do have to think about what's right for your product. So this moving light effect might not be right, for example, if you were doing like a health food product. Some gimbals allow you to create this shot. Tilt the camera so it faces forwards from the top of the gimbal like a flashlight, and then use the joystick to rotate the gimbal. But I didn't actually create my twisting shots like that. I used the rotate setting in Adobe Premiere, and I added keyframes to tell it how much to rotate. And it's much easier and more flexible to do it this way. You can add this rotation to any of your shots, and it adds a kind of extra dynamic. So when the sequence is edited together, it looks less robotic. Well, maybe it still looks robotic, but it's kind of a more exciting robot with some serious moves. I'm also programming in speed changes, and you can do this in most editing software. As long as it has a rotation function with keyframes, you're good to go. So Freestyle is where you hold the smartphone in your hands and just get creative. So this is where using a smartphone gives you an advantage over using a bigger camera, because it's so small and light, you can easily just move it around. Very simple. Set the resolution to 4K and 60 frames per second. Leave focus and exposure in auto. Move freestyle and try to create something dramatic with swooping and gliding. And you can also lock focus, so then when you move in, the product moves into focus. When you're editing, go through and find the best bit. You're just going to use a few seconds. And also, if it needs it, you can add some stabilization in the edit as well. So like when you're doing the moving light shot, when you're doing this freestyle shot, you can get very creative. So you can actually buy motorized turntables, but this is a cheaper option. So just search for what's called a Lazy Susan. The downside is you will need a hand-free to turn it. But if you have your smartphone on a tripod, then there's no problem. Get in close, start recording, and now turn the product as smoothly as possible. So I shot these at 60 frames per second, like some of the other shots, and it's just so that I can slow it down to 24 frames per second again. It'll just smooth out any little inconsistencies that I might have as I'm pushing it around manually. Also, while I was editing, I chose this part of the clip because I got this little lens flare just as the product reflects the light, which looks pretty cool. Okay, so now I'm going to edit all those shots together with a bit of music and some color grading. Little guy, I'm trying to work here.
I'm walking here.
Well, can you walk somewhere else?
Okay.
So let me tell you a bit more about the Zeppen slider, the Micro 2 Plus. So the Plus is an update on the Micro 2, and the difference is that it comes with these feet, which extend if you need them to do so. So you can place this on a flat surface. You don't need a tripod necessarily. These feet are adjustable. If you're on an uneven surface, you can adjust them and they will extend them. You can also just attach it to a tripod, and there's a little adapter there for 2 sizes. So why would you want to use it manually rather than with the motor? So you can just push it along with your hand like this, and it has a kind of resistance so that it keeps the motion very smooth and constant. But you could also accelerate or decelerate. So whereas with the motor, unless you're using the app and you program different speeds, it's just going to go at one pace. But using your hand, you could start fast and then slow into a stop. Or you could start slow and then accelerate. What other advantages are there? So obviously this is the motor, and they come separately, so I think you can buy this on its own or with the motor. So the motor is obviously heavy. Without the motor, this is going to be lighter. You don't have to worry about batteries if you just using it manually. Also, using it manually, there's no noise. when it's moving, whereas with the motor there is a slight noise. So if you were recording dialogue, for example, then that motor noise might be picked up by the microphone. It's not very loud, but it's maybe enough to spoil something. So that's the manual version. Let's put the motor on, and I'll show you it with the motor working. We'll just take the iPhone off. So we just need to... I have learned how to do this now. It's actually very simple. Once you know how, it's easy, wasn't it? That caused me a lot of headaches. Probably my fault. So that's the motor on. Okay, these keep it fixed in place. And then you've got the battery, so you have to undo the lock. You have to press the lock button, and then there you go. Power on, press and hold, and once it's powered on you get the two lights there, which are also the speed indicator. So there's 3 different speeds. The simplest way to use it is you just press, there's a left and right button here, so you just press one of them, keep holding it, so that's the middle speed. As soon as you let go it stops. The other way to do it is to tap it twice. And now it will just keep going until you tell it to stop, or until it gets to the end. You stop it by pressing it twice again. To change the speed, all you do is you tap the power button once. So this is the fastest speed. You can hear that sound, can't you? And this is the slowest speed. Another thing you can do is you can have it cycle around 2 points, so it will just keep going backwards and forwards. So you move the slider into the first position. Say we want to start from here. So once it's in position, you just double click the power button. So that beep tells you that it's set that point. And now move it to the second position. Again, so that's the second position. And now you tap and hold the direction button on the top, and you tap the power button. So now it should just go between these 2 points. Let's see if it works. There we go. So you might use that for, if you're actually filming yourself, you don't want to have to keep pressing start and then running to do the action. So this way you could set it to go from one end to the other, for example, and then you can do your action, and it will just keep going backwards and forwards. Now how do we stop it? To stop it, hold down the direction button and press the power button again. Okay, so we pressed that, and it stops. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by giving it a thumbs up. And if you want to join our community on Patreon, it'd be great to see you there. And otherwise, if you're interested in more videos that teach you how to shoot better videos using your smartphone, check out my other videos. Everything on this channel is to do with smartphone filmmaking. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.